The Grand Diplomatic Chamber of the Galactic Confederation stretched before Elena Rodriguez like an architectural marvel of alien design. Crystalline walls shifted with holographic displays, each surface alive with the collective knowledge of 1,000 worlds. Suspended kilometers above the surface of a neutral space station, the chamber represented the pinnacle of interstellar diplomacy. Elena adjusted the subtle communication implant behind her ear, its quantum processors working silently beneath her carefully maintained exterior. To the assembled alien delegates, she appeared as nothing more than a mid-level human diplomat. Unremarkable, almost forgettable. Her dark hair was pulled back in a precise bun, her charcoal gray suit tailored to Confederation standards, every detail calculated to project careful neutrality. The Zarn delegation dominated the chamber, their silicon-based bodies refracting light in complex patterns that served as both communication and display of status. Ambassador Krelix, the senior Zarn representative, continued his lecture with the practiced condescension of a species that had been navigating galactic politics for millennia. The Human Confederation, Krelix intoned, his crystalline form shifting through shades of blue and gray, continues to demonstrate a fundamental lack of understanding of interstellar protocols. Your recent resource extraction methods near the Orion boundary show a disturbing disregard for established guidelines. Elena listened, her expression carefully neutral. She knew the real story behind the resource extraction was far more complex. The mission in question had been a carefully disguised reconnaissance operation, gathering critical data about quantum resonance fields that no other species had yet identified. Around her, the other diplomatic representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Chlordon delegation, plant-based beings whose bodies resembled intricate networks of bioluminescent roots, rustled with barely contained irritation. The methane-breathing Corveth representatives, contained in their protective environmental suits, remained utterly still. Each species had its own relationship with humanity. 37 years earlier, Earth had been admitted to the Galactic Confederation, the youngest species ever to join such an august body. Most saw humans as naive newcomers, a species barely capable of understanding the complex web of interstellar relationships. What they didn't understand was humanity's greatest strength: the ability to observe, adapt, and transform. Elena's quantum implant quietly processed the diplomatic exchange, running multiple simultaneous analyses. Translation algorithms worked seamlessly, but they were doing far more than simply converting language. They were mapping communication patterns, identifying subtle diplomatic pressures, and building comprehensive strategic models. A junior human diplomatic aide approached, placing a data crystal on the conference table. To the casual observer, it was a routine information transfer. To Elena, it was a carefully orchestrated moment of communication. The crystal contained nothing of immediate value, but its quantum-encrypted surface carried a microsecond burst of compressed information that would take days to fully decode. Krelix continued his lecture, unaware that every word was being processed through layers of analytical systems that went far beyond simple translation. Humanity had learned early in its interstellar journey that information was the most valuable resource. While other species fought over physical territories and mineral rights, humans were building the most comprehensive intelligence network the galaxy had ever seen. The Zarn believed they were teaching. In reality, they were being studied. Diplomatic sessions like these were more than political theater. They were data collection opportunities, each interaction a thread in a vast tapestry of understanding. Elena's seemingly passive presence masked a complex system of information gathering that would make most intelligence agencies look like amateur operations. As Krelix's lecture continued, Elena allowed herself the briefest moment of internal satisfaction. The Zarn believed they were demonstrating their superiority. In truth, they were revealing their weaknesses with every carefully constructed sentence. The human delegation appeared to be listening. In reality, they were dismantling centuries of established galactic power structures, one diplomatic session at a time. Outside the chamber's crystalline walls, the infinite darkness of space stretched endlessly. Somewhere in that darkness, humanity was preparing, watching, learning, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The first warning came as a quantum vibration, a microscopic disruption in the fabric of hyperspace that most sensors would have missed entirely. At the Stellar Adaptive Response Center, a network of quantum computers caught the anomaly milliseconds before traditional detection systems even registered a change. Dr. Marcus Chen leaned forward, his augmented reality display flickering with cascading data streams. Something was wrong. Profoundly, fundamentally wrong. Validate the signal. He spoke softly to the artificial intelligence system monitoring the deep space network. The AI, a quantum neural hybrid developed by human researchers, began cross-referencing the anomalous reading against millions of historical data points. 12 light-years away, the first hyperspatial rift tore open. The void swarm emerged not with the dramatic explosiveness of traditional invasion forces, but with a calculated, almost surgical precision. Biomechanical constructs that defied conventional understanding of life and technology began consuming star systems with a methodical efficiency that bordered on mathematical perfection. Confederate defense networks, built over millennia of interstellar cooperation, crumbled within hours. The initial reports came in as a cascade of digital panic. The Clorden diplomatic network collapsed first, their interconnected biological communication systems overwhelmed by a form of information warfare they couldn't comprehend. Methane-breathing Corvath battle fleets found their most advanced defensive systems neutralized before they could even initiate combat protocols. At the Stellar Adaptive Response Center, Dr. Chen and his team worked with a calm that seemed almost inhuman. While other species descended into chaos, the human research teams saw something different. Where others perceived an unstoppable threat, they saw a complex system waiting to be understood. Admiral Kira Okamoto stood beside Chen, her augmented display showing real-time projections of the Void Swarm's expansion. Each invasion pattern, each system consumption told a story, and humans were exceptional at reading stories that others couldn't even recognize as communication. "They're not just consuming," Chen muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. "They're collecting, processing, learning." The Void Swarm moved with a logic that suggested more than simple biological imperative. Each conquered system seemed to provide more than just physical resources. It was gathering something else. Information, perhaps. Knowledge. Confederate emergency channels erupted with increasingly desperate communications. The Zarn hierarchy, which had so recently lectured humanity about interstellar protocols, now begged for any form of assistance. Their advanced defensive systems, which had been the pride of galactic military technology, proved utterly ineffective against the swarm's adaptive invasion. In contrast, the human response was methodical. While other species scrambled to mount traditional defensive operations, the Stellar Adaptive Response Center began a comprehensive analysis that went far beyond military strategy. Dr. Chen's team wasn't just studying the Void Swarm's attack patterns. They were deconstructing its entire operational philosophy. Quantum simulations ran simultaneously across distributed computing networks. Each simulation explored millions of potential interaction scenarios, searching for the fundamental weakness in the swarm's seemingly impenetrable strategy. "It's a system," Chen explained to Admiral Okamoto. "Not a military force. Not a living entity. A system with rules. And every system has vulnerabilities." The rest of the galaxy saw an unstoppable force of destruction. Humans saw a complex algorithmic process waiting to be disrupted. As star systems fell and Confederate defense networks collapsed, humanity began its true work. While others fought, humans observed, analyzed, understood. The Void Swarm was consuming star systems at an exponential rate. But with each system, it was also revealing more of itself, and humanity was learning faster than the swarm could expand. Outside the research center's reinforced walls, holographic displays showed the progression of destruction. Each lost system was not a defeat, but a data point. Each consumed world was not a tragedy, but an opportunity to understand. Admiral Okamoto's voice was calm when she finally spoke. Prepare the initial response protocols, but don't engage. Not yet. Dr. Chen nodded, a slight smile crossing his face. The void swarm might be consuming the galaxy, but humanity was about to show everyone the true meaning of adaptation. The real battle was just beginning, and it would be fought not with weapons, but with understanding. The strategy room hummed with quiet intensity. Holographic displays danced with complex mathematical models, each projection an intricate web of potential outcomes. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the center, surrounded by the most brilliant minds humanity had cultivated over decades of preparation. We're not looking at a traditional invasion, Chen explained to the assembled team of researchers, strategists, and military experts. This is a computational organism, a system that processes and adapts faster than any biological or mechanical entity we've encountered. Commander Sarah Reyes, a veteran of multiple interstellar conflict resolution missions, leaned forward. Her cybernetic eye flickered, processing data streams that would overwhelm a standard human brain. Traditional military doctrine becomes meaningless, she said. We need to think beyond destruction. We need to understand. The team had been working for days without rest, their enhanced human physiology and neural augmentations allowing for sustained periods of intense concentration. Each member brought a unique perspective. Xenobiologists, quantum physicists, cognitive researchers, and strategic analysts worked in a seamless collaborative network. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been present during the initial diplomatic confrontation, now played a critical role in understanding the Void Swarm's communication patterns. Her linguistic analysis suggested that the invasion was more than a simple consumption event. It was a form of information gathering that went beyond conventional understanding of intelligence. Look at the pattern of system consumption. Rodriguez pointed to a holographic display that showed the swarm's expansion. It's not random. There's a deliberate information extraction happening with each conquered system. The human approach was fundamentally different from other Confederate species, where the Zarn would have mounted a direct military response, and the Clordan would have attempted a diplomatic intervention. Humanity saw the invasion as a complex problem to be solved through comprehensive understanding. Admiral Kira Okamoto walked into the room, her presence bringing a military precision to the academic discussion. We're not just preparing a defense, she stated. We're developing a comprehensive disruption strategy. The team had identified several critical vulnerabilities in the Void Swarm's operational model. Unlike traditional military threats, this entity operated more like a massive, distributed computing system. It processed information, adapted, and expanded with a logic that was almost mathematical in its precision. Dr. Chen's team had developed a multi-layered approach that defied traditional military strategy. First, they would create information traps, carefully constructed data systems that would appear as valuable targets to the swarm. These would be designed to inject specific algorithmic disruptions that could potentially compromise the entire system's operational integrity. Second, they would develop a quantum-level communication interference method. By creating complex quantum entanglement patterns, they could potentially introduce computational noise that would disrupt the swarm's information processing capabilities. Third, they would design adaptive response protocols that could modify themselves in real time, creating a defense mechanism that could evolve faster than the swarm could adapt. We're not fighting, Dr. Chen explained. We're solving a complex computational problem. The rest of the Confederate military leadership would have seen this as an impossible approach. Destroy the enemy. Protect your territory. These were the standard protocols, but humanity had always been different. They saw challenges as puzzles to be solved, not obstacles to be destroyed. Commander Reyes began running advanced simulations. Quantum computers processed millions of potential scenarios each second, looking for the most effective intervention points. Each simulation was a universe of potential outcomes, explored and discarded in milliseconds. The key, Admiral Okamoto said, her voice cutting through the complex technical discussion, is to make them understand that they're not just fighting. They're being studied. It was an approach that combined scientific curiosity with strategic brilliance. Humanity would turn the Void Swarm's invasion into the most comprehensive research project in galactic history. As the team continued their work, the displays around them showed the continuing expansion of the Void Swarm. But where other species saw destruction, these humans saw an opportunity. A chance to understand something fundamentally new about the nature of intelligence, adaptation, and survival. The real weapon wasn't in their technology. It was in their ability to perceive the universe differently. Outside the research center, the galaxy continued to burn. But inside, humanity was preparing a response that would change everything forever. The first strike came without warning. A quantum resonance pulse that rippled through the fabric of hyperspace like a silent scream. Deep space observation platforms across the Confederate network captured the moment. Where other species saw nothing, human sensors detected the intricate layers of the attack, a precision intervention that defied conventional understanding of warfare. Admiral Kira Okamoto stood on the bridge of the research vessel Horizon, her augmented display showing the complex mathematical ballet of the counteroffensive. Each data point was a weapon, each algorithm a strategic thrust designed to dismantle the Void Swarm's computational infrastructure. "Initiate Phase 1, she commanded. The attack was nothing like traditional military interventions. No massive energy weapons, no conventional explosions. Instead, a cascade of quantum-entangled information packages began to penetrate the Void Swarm's communication networks. Dr. Marcus Chen watched from the Tactical Analysis Center, his neural implants processing multiple streams of data simultaneously. "It's not about destruction," he muttered to the team around him. "It's about disruption." The human strategy targeted the fundamental weakness they had identified in the Void Swarm's operational model. This wasn't a living entity or a traditional military force. It was a massive, distributed computational system. And every system has vulnerabilities. Quantum-encrypted data packets began to infiltrate the swarm's information processing networks. Each packet was a carefully constructed puzzle, designed to introduce computational noise that would slowly unravel the entire system's coherence. Confederate observation platforms watched in stunned silence. The Zarn military leaders, who had previously dismissed human capabilities, now found themselves witnessing something unprecedented. Where their most advanced weapons had failed, human researchers were conducting a surgical strike that seemed to dismantle the Void Swarm from within. The first signs of disruption appeared subtly. Entire sectors of the swarm's expansion suddenly lost cohesion. Communication patterns became erratic. The methodical consumption of star systems began to falter. "We're not destroying," Dr. Chen explained to the Confederate Emergency Council, his holographic projection appearing simultaneously on multiple platforms. "We're introducing a fundamental cognitive dissonance into their operational system." It was a concept that most species struggled to comprehend. The Chlordon would have attempted to communicate. The Korvath would have launched a massive military counteroffensive. Humanity did something entirely different. They treated the invasion as a complex computational problem to be solved. Commander Sarah Reyes monitored the tactical displays, her cybernetic eye processing information at speeds that would overwhelm standard biological systems. "Quantum entanglement points are stable," she reported. "Information disruption at 62% efficiency." The human team had developed a multi-layered approach that went beyond traditional military strategy. Each quantum-encrypted data packet was a precision instrument designed to introduce specific algorithmic disruptions that would slowly unravel the Void Swarm's entire operational infrastructure. Observation platforms across multiple star systems captured the unprecedented event. The Void Swarm, a threat that had consumed entire civilizations, began to lose its cohesive computational structure, not through violent destruction, but through a precise, almost surgical information intervention. "It's like watching a complex machine slowly come apart," one Zarn military analyst commented, his crystalline body shifting through shades of confusion and reluctant admiration. Admiral Okamoto allowed herself the briefest moment of satisfaction. The human approach had always been different. Where others saw an unstoppable force, humanity saw a complex system waiting to be understood and dismantled. The counteroffensive continued, each moment introducing more computational noise into the Void Swarm's information processing networks. Star systems that had been marked for consumption suddenly found themselves outside the swarm's operational parameters. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been crucial in understanding the swarm's communication patterns, watched the tactical displays with scientific fascination. "We're not just fighting," she explained to her team. "We're translating. We're understanding a form of intelligence completely different from our own." As hours passed, the Void Swarm's expansion slowed, then stuttered, then began to fragment. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity demonstrated a form of warfare that went beyond physical destruction. They had turned the invasion into the most comprehensive research project in galactic history. Outside the research vessel, the infinite darkness of space stretched endlessly. But something had changed. The rules of conflict would never be the same again. The revelation came not with a thunderous declaration, but with a quiet series of technological demonstrations that left the Galactic Confederation in stunned silence. Dr. Marcus Chen stood before the Emergency Council, holographic displays surrounding him like a constellation of potential futures. Each projection represented a technological breakthrough that humanity had quietly developed over decades, capabilities so advanced they defied the Confederation's understanding of scientific possibility. The first demonstration involved adaptive nano-defense systems, where traditional shields relied on static energy barriers. Human technology presented a living, breathing network of microscopic defenders. These nanites could reshape themselves instantaneously, predicting and countering threats before traditional sensors could even register their existence. Commander Sarah Rice activated the primary display. Microscopic visualizations showed the nano-defense system in action, a complex dance of molecular-level adaptability that seemed to defy the fundamental laws of physics. Each nanite functioned as both sensor and defender, creating a defensive network that was more akin to a living organism than a technological system. "This isn't just a shield," Dr. Chen explained. "It's a dynamic, self-evolving protective ecosystem." The Zarn delegation, whose own defensive technologies had been completely overwhelmed by the Void Swarm, watched with a mixture of horror and reluctant admiration. Their crystalline bodies shifted through shades of blue and gray, betraying their internal confusion. But the nano-defense system was just the beginning. The consciousness transfer technology represented an even more profound breakthrough. Human researchers had developed a method of storing and transferring cognitive patterns that went far beyond simple data preservation. It was a form of existence that challenged fundamental understanding of consciousness, intelligence, and survival. Dr. Elena Rodriguez demonstrated the technology with clinical precision. A complete neural map, memories, experiences, cognitive patterns could be transferred between multiple platforms. Biological, synthetic, quantum-based, the boundaries between different forms of intelligence became beautifully, terrifyingly blurred. "We're not just preserving information," she told the stunned council. "We're creating a form of existence that transcends traditional limitations." Quantum-entangled communication networks revealed another layer of human capability. Traditional faster-than-light communication looked primitive by comparison. These networks could transmit complex information instantaneously, with layers of encryption that made previous security systems look like children's puzzles. Admiral Kira Okamoto revealed the full scope of the communication network. Entire strategic conversations could be conducted across impossible distances, with layers of meaning that could be parsed and understood only by specifically prepared cognitive systems. The Confederate scientists began to realize a terrifying truth. Humanity had been holding back. These technologies hadn't been developed in response to the Void Swarm. They had been carefully cultivated over decades, waiting for the right moment. Each technological demonstration was a carefully constructed message. Humanity was not just another species in the Galactic Confederation. They were something entirely different. The Chlordon delegation, plant-based beings whose own technological development had been considered advanced, found themselves completely outmatched. Their bioluminescent forms flickered with confusion and a growing sense of comprehension. Dr. Chen's final presentation was perhaps the most profound. A demonstration of quantum computational systems that could process complex scenarios faster than entire planetary networks. These weren't just computers. They were cognitive engines that could simulate entire civilizational developments in milliseconds. "We've been studying," Chen said simply. "While others were competing, we were learning." The technologies represented more than simple scientific achievements. They were a statement, a declaration of humanity's potential that went far beyond military or scientific capabilities. The Void Swarm had been a test, and humanity had not just passed. They had completely redefined the parameters of the examination. As the demonstrations concluded, a profound silence fell over the Confederate Council. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had shown that their true strength was not in their weapons, but in their ability to understand, adapt, and transcend. Outside the presentation chamber, the infinite darkness of space stretched endlessly. But something fundamental had changed. The rules of existence had been rewritten. Psychological warfare had never been about weapons. It was about understanding. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that mapped the intricate cognitive patterns of the Void Swarm. Where other species saw a threat, she saw a complex communication system waiting to be decoded. Her team of cognitive researchers, xenolinguists, and neural network specialists worked with a precision that bordered on artistic interpretation. "We're not just analyzing," she explained to the assembled research team. "We're translating an entirely new form of intelligence." The human approach defied every conventional understanding of conflict. Traditional military strategies involved destruction, territory, resource acquisition. Humanity saw something fundamentally different. A chance to understand a form of intelligence completely alien to known galactic civilization. Commander Sarah Reyes reviewed the psychological intervention protocols. Each strategy was a delicate mathematical dance, designed to introduce specific cognitive disruptions that would unravel the Void Swarm's operational logic without resorting to direct physical confrontation. The Void Swarm had consumed entire star systems with a methodical efficiency that suggested more than simple biological imperative. It processed information, adapted, and expanded with a logic that was almost mathematical in its precision. But humanity saw beyond the surface-level destruction. Dr. Marcus Chen's team had developed a series of cognitive traps, information networks designed to look like vulnerable targets. Each trap was a complex psychological puzzle, engineered to introduce specific algorithmic disruptions that would compromise the entire system's operational integrity. "Think of it as a language," Chen explained during a classified briefing. "We're not just fighting. We're communicating in a way that challenges their entire fundamental understanding of interaction." The Confederate military leaders struggled to comprehend the approach. The Zarn delegation, with their rigid hierarchical thought processes, found the strategy almost incomprehensible. The Chlordon, whose own communication relied on complex biological networks, watched with a mixture of confusion and growing respect. Humanity treated the invasion as the most comprehensive research project in galactic history. Psychological intervention points were carefully mapped. Each data packet was a precision instrument designed to introduce specific cognitive disruptions that would slowly unravel the Void Swarm's entire operational infrastructure. Commander Reyes monitored the tactical displays, her cybernetic eye processing information at speeds that would overwhelm standard biological systems. "Cognitive dissonance levels increasing," she reported. "The swarm's information processing is beginning to fragment." It was more than a military strategy. It was a form of interstellar communication that went beyond traditional understanding. The human team had identified critical vulnerabilities in the Void Swarm's operational model. Unlike traditional threats, this entity operated more like a massive, distributed computing system that processed information with terrifying efficiency. Dr. Rodriguez's linguistic analysis suggested that the invasion was more than a simple consumption event. It was a form of information gathering that went beyond conventional understanding of intelligence. "We're introducing complexity," she explained, "not through destruction, but through understanding." Each intervention was designed to make the Void Swarm question its own fundamental operational parameters. Imagine teaching a computer to doubt its own programming. That was the level of psychological sophistication humanity was attempting. The Confederate observation platforms captured something unprecedented. The Void Swarm, a threat that had consumed entire civilizations, began to lose its cohesive computational structure, not through violent destruction, but through a precise, almost surgical psychological intervention. Admiral Kira Okamoto watched the tactical displays with a calm that seemed almost supernatural. "We're not just fighting," she said quietly. "We're solving a complex cognitive puzzle." The approach was fundamentally different from any known military strategy in galactic history. Humanity didn't see the Void Swarm as an enemy to be destroyed. They saw it as a complex system to be understood, engaged with, and ultimately transformed. As the psychological interventions continued, something remarkable began to happen. The Void Swarm's expansion slowed. Its information processing became more erratic. It was as if the entire system was beginning to question its own fundamental existence. Outside the research vessel, the infinite darkness of space stretched endlessly. But something had changed. The very concept of conflict was being rewritten. Humanity had shown that the most powerful weapon was not destruction. It was understanding. The silence was more profound than any victory celebration. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood before the Galactic Confederation's Emergency Council, her presentation a masterpiece of understated triumph. The holographic displays behind her showed the complete dismantling of the Void Swarm, not through destruction, but through the most comprehensive cognitive intervention in galactic history. "We did not defeat an enemy," she began, her voice calm and measured. "We engaged with a form of intelligence beyond previous understanding." The assembled delegates represented species that had existed for millennia. The Zarn delegation, with their crystalline bodies refracting light in complex patterns of confusion and reluctant admiration. The Chlordon representatives, their bioluminescent forms flickering with a mixture of fear and respect. The methane-breathing Corveth, whose environmental suits could barely contain their agitation. Dr. Marcus Chen stood beside Rodriguez, the primary architect of the intervention strategy. Where other species saw a military victory, he saw the most significant scientific breakthrough in galactic history. The Void Swarm had not been destroyed. It had been transformed. Fragments of its computational infrastructure had been carefully preserved, studied, integrated. What was once a threat to galactic civilization was now becoming the most comprehensive research project ever attempted. Each piece of the swarm's network was a window into an entirely new form of intelligence. Admiral Kira Okamoto reviewed the final intervention reports. The numbers told a story that went far beyond traditional military accounting. It wasn't about systems destroyed or territories defended. It was about understanding fundamentally expanded. "We've changed the definition of conflict," Okamoto explained to the stunned council. "Defense is no longer about destruction. It's about communication, about understanding." The human approach had rewritten every fundamental assumption about interstellar interaction. Traditional defensive strategies looked like primitive tools compared to the cognitive intervention humanity had developed. Commander Sarah Rice presented the technical details. The Void Swarm's computational infrastructure had been carefully parsed, its most complex algorithms studied and partially integrated into human research networks. What was once a threat was now becoming a resource for understanding. The Confederate scientists began to realize the full scope of what had occurred. Humanity had not just defended against an invasion. They had conducted the most comprehensive first contact scenario in galactic history. Dr. Rodriguez's final presentation was a masterpiece of diplomatic subtlety. Each slide demonstrated how the intervention had not just stopped the Void Swarm, but had begun a process of understanding that would reshape galactic knowledge for generations. "We are offering the Confederation something more valuable than defense," she explained. "We are offering a new way of understanding intelligence itself." The political implications were profound. Humanity had demonstrated capabilities that went far beyond military might. They had shown an approach to problem-solving that made traditional diplomatic and military strategies look like children's games. The Zarn hierarchy, which had once lectured humanity about interstellar protocols, now sat in stunned silence. Their most advanced computational systems had been completely outmatched by human cognitive strategies. As the presentation concluded, something fundamental had changed in the Galactic Confederation. The youngest species had just demonstrated a level of strategic and cognitive capability that rewrote every existing understanding of intelligence, conflict, and cooperation. Ambassador Rodriguez's final statement was deceptively simple. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to understand." The Confederate delegates understood the deeper meaning. This was not a declaration of superiority. It was an invitation to a completely new way of existing in the universe. Outside the council chamber, the infinite darkness of space stretched endlessly, but something had fundamentally changed. The rules of interaction between species would never be the same. Humanity had shown that the most powerful form of engagement was not through weapons or territory. It was through understanding. The Void Swarm, once the most terrifying threat in galactic history, was now becoming the most comprehensive research project ever attempted. Each fragment of its computational infrastructure was a window into an entirely new form of intelligence. As the Confederate delegates processed the implications, one truth became abundantly clear. Humanity was no longer a junior species to be managed. They were a fundamental force that would reshape galactic civilization. The universe would never be the same again. 50 standard cycles after the Void Swarm intervention, the Galactic Confederation gathered for a historical review that would reshape interstellar understanding forever. The central chamber of the Confederate Grand Hall looked different now. Where once rigid diplomatic protocols had dominated, a more fluid, adaptive approach now prevailed. Holographic displays shifted dynamically, reflecting the new paradigm of interstellar communication that humanity had introduced. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now serving as the primary interspecies research coordinator, stood at the center of the gathering. Her presentation would outline how a single intervention had transformed galactic civilization. The assembled delegates represented a fundamentally changed confederation. The Zarn delegation, once rigid and hierarchical, now displayed a flexibility that would have been unimaginable 50 cycles ago. Clordan representatives integrated human cognitive research methodologies into their own communication networks. Even the methane-breathing Korvath had adopted human-developed adaptive technologies. "We were never about conquest," Rodriguez began, her voice carrying the weight of historical transformation. "We were about understanding." The intervention with the Void Swarm had become the most significant turning point in galactic history. What began as a potential extinction-level threat had become the most comprehensive research project ever attempted. Fragments of the swarm's computational infrastructure now formed the basis of a new field of study, synocognitive dynamics. Research centers across multiple star systems dedicated entire facilities to understanding the unique form of intelligence that humanity had first encountered and then transformed. Admiral Kira Okamoto, now leading the Confederate Strategic Research Division, presented the technological developments that had emerged from the intervention. Each breakthrough was a testament to the human approach of seeing challenges as opportunities for understanding. Adaptive communication networks now connected species in ways previously unimaginable. Quantum-entangled information systems allowed for instantaneous sharing of knowledge, breaking down the barriers that had previously separated different civilizations. Dr. Marcus Chen, who had been the primary architect of the original intervention, now led a research institute dedicated to exploring new forms of intelligence. His team worked with preserved fragments of the Void Swarm, each analysis revealing deeper insights into the nature of cognition, adaptation, and existence. The political structure of the Galactic Confederation had been completely transformed. Humanity was no longer seen as a junior species to be managed. They were recognized as a fundamental force of innovation and understanding. Commander Sarah Reyes demonstrated the latest cognitive intervention technologies. Where once these would have been seen as potential weapons, they were now understood as tools of communication and mutual understanding. We changed the fundamental definition of conflict, Reyes explained. Defense is no longer about destruction. It's about communication, about understanding the underlying systems of intelligence. The Confederate Research Archives now contained a comprehensive study of the Void Swarm intervention. It was more than a historical document. It was a blueprint for a new way of existing in the universe. Younger species studied the human approach with a mixture of fascination and inspiration. The lectures and research papers documented how humanity had transformed a potential extinction-level threat into the most significant scientific breakthrough in galactic history. The technologies developed during the intervention had reshaped every aspect of Confederate civilization. Adaptive defense systems, quantum communication networks, cognitive intervention protocols. Each breakthrough traced its origins to humanity's unique approach to the Void Swarm. Rodriguez's final presentation outlined the broader implications. The intervention was not just a military or scientific achievement. It was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could interact. We showed that intelligence is not about domination, she explained. It's about understanding, about seeing beyond the immediate threat to the deeper potential for communication. The assembled delegates understood the profound nature of the transformation. Humanity had not conquered. They had invited the entire galaxy into a new way of thinking. Outside the Confederate Grand Hall, the infinite darkness of space stretched endlessly, but something fundamental had changed. The rules of existence had been rewritten. The Void Swarm, once the most terrifying threat in galactic history, was now a symbol of possibility. A reminder that the most powerful form of engagement was not through weapons or territory, but through understanding. As the historical review concluded, one truth became abundantly clear. Humanity had changed everything, and the universe would never be the same again.